So that was my sister Jill and my brother-in-law Dustin, who were nice enough to be my audience. 1.6 million people. That is how many people die every year in Africa from the HIV virus. The impact that HIV has had on humanity, and the developing world in particular, can hardly be overstated. This microscopic virus has killed more individuals than all modern wars combined. However, there are several treatments that have the potential to wipe this killer off the face of the earth. I will detail what HIV is, how it has affected us, and what is being done to stop its tyranny. Now for some information on what HIV is and what makes it so dangerous. Human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, is a virus that targets the immune system of the human body. It is spread through bodily fluids, typically through sexual contact or intravenous drug use. And it targets the T cells in particular, which is the body's most important line of defense against bacteria, viruses, fungi, and cancer cells. And what it does is, when you get HIV and your T cells are killed, it severely diminishes your immune system. And even common infections, such as cold or influenza, can prove to be fatal without your immune system working at full force. You're also susceptible to many rare diseases that are pretty much only seen in people with HIV, such as skin cancer known as Kaposi sarcoma or pneumocystis pneumonia. These diseases are typically only seen in people with HIV, and in fact are considered HIV indicating diseases, which mean that if you contract one of them, it's almost certain that you have HIV. So what makes HIV so dangerous? HIV is, well, all viruses, when they replicate, it's very ineffective, and it causes mutations. And what these mutations do is it alters genetic markers on the virus so that it's hard or impossible for scientists to narrow in or zero in on these and target them with vaccinations or medications, like we can with influenza, which doesn't mutate as quickly. And HIV is also a retrovirus, which means that instead of making RNA from DNA like humans and all eukaryotes do, it forms DNA from RNA, which makes it very resistant to current antiviral drugs. Now, these effects make HIV phenomenally dangerous and help explain the vast impact it has on the world. And this is where my visuals come into play. It's just a picture of two children that have been orphaned from HIV, and a chart that shows the number of AIDS-related deaths and infections in the world. And HIV, it affects most predominantly the developing countries, such as or continents such as Africa in particular. And in Africa, it is the most deadly illness, and when this is combined with malnutrition and other indigenous illnesses such as malaria, it has taken a devastating toll on Africa. Not only has it been a medical disaster, it's been an economic disaster, because people with HIV are usually too ill to work and support their family. And while it may be more common and more severe in developing countries, developed countries such as the US are not immune to it either. There are currently around 1.5 million people living in the US with HIV, and although we have medications to significantly extend the lifespan of people in developing countries, or in developed countries, it's still a stigmatized disease. Most people still remember the 1980s when This killed people months after diagnosis, and they thought that only people that were involved in illicit sex trades or IV drug use got HIV, so there's still a stigma attached to it in the US. The reason that HIV has been treated so effectively in developed countries such as the US is thanks to medications such as antiretrovirals, which were discovered in 1964, and they're actually designed to target retroviruses that cause cancer, but they proved pretty ineffective at that. But when HIV was found to be a retrovirus, we redesigned them to target HIV. They're highly effective in treating HIV right now. They can extend the lifespan up to several decades, in fact. And the most common medications are in an AZT cocktail, and it's 3 different retroviral drugs that have different antiretroviral properties. There's even hope for a potential cure with the Delta 32 mutation. It may not be possible right now, but the Delta 32 mutation causes a mutation to the T cell receptors, which means that HIV can't get into the cell, replicate, and kill the T cells or weaken the immune system. And this is still years away, if it even is possible. It involves a lot of tedious and expensive genetic research, but hopefully there's ground to be made there. And I think it's the hope of every conscientious person that this virus is eliminated. And while these drugs have extended the life of people in developed countries decades, the drugs are very expensive, and most people in developing countries can't afford them. Now, HIV is a devastating disease that has killed more than 40 million people in the past 3 decades. It has paralyzed an entire continent and rendered it almost economically inviable, probably led to the advent of civil wars. Now, hopefully with renewed awareness of this disease, it becomes possible to fund better research and make sure that millions of children like the ones featured in my picture won't face the horror of growing up without parents who have been taken by HIV. Thank you.